Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. Olivia's on vacation. A Scott County woman has learned her fate for murdering her ex-husband. Cassandra Carson was sentenced to 50 years in jail for stabbing and killing Matthew Turner in 2019. Jeremy Toms was in the courtroom this morning and has reaction from the victim's family.
Back in 2021, Cassandra Carson worked out a plea deal to serve 25 years for killing her ex-husband, Matthew Turner. But then days later, she changed her mind. Now this morning, a judge has sentenced her to serve double the amount of time.
Matt Turner's mother, Denise Knievel, addressed the courtroom on Monday, speaking of the void that's been left in her family and in her heart.
Matt was, he was what people commonly called a gentle giant, 6'4", 270 pounds, but a heart bigger than his body.
She says his good heart is why he kept helping his ex-wife.
Matt felt like he needed to take care of everybody, and he knew that she had a drug problem, and he was trying to get her help. When we got his computer, the last thing on his computer was him looking for a rehab facility for her. He wanted the best for her, even though they couldn't be together.
But she says he had planned to move to San Antonio and had finally gave up the Sunday before he was killed. Now she will miss the moments they spent together, the trips they had planned, and their conversations, she says, always ended in "I love you." While she's pleased with the jury's verdict and the judge's sentence, Knievel says she's prayed for Carson since day one and will continue to.
She's still a daughter of God, and it is not his desire that any of us not make it. So, and I will keep praying for her and for her family.
Carson will be eligible for parole in 20 years, but for now, Turner's family feel that justice has been served. In Scott County, Jeremy Toms, WKYT.
The man accused of shooting and killing a Scott County deputy is facing yet another charge, this time in northern Kentucky. A Kenton County grand jury indicted Stephen Xing on charges of burglary and being a persistent felony offender. Xing is accused of breaking into a home in Kenton County. Days before, he's accused of killing Scott County Deputy Caleb Conley. He's facing murder, robbery, and assault charges in connection to that case. The suspect accused of killing 4 Idaho University students wants more time to decide whether to provide an alibi for when the murders took place. Brian Koberger is facing charges for reportedly stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death last November. Normally, under Idaho law, the criminal defendant has 10 days to decide whether to provide information on an alibi, but Koberger's public defender wants to extend the deadline. She says she's not had enough time to fully review the evidence provided by the prosecution, which includes thousands of pages of discovery. Also, the judge has entered a gag order prohibiting attorneys from speaking publicly about the case. Former President Donald Trump is preparing to make his first court appearance following the 37-count indictment related to his handling of classified documents. CBS's Christian Benavidez is in Miami, where security preparations are underway ahead of tomorrow's arraignment.
Supporters cheered as former President Donald Trump arrived at his Doral golf course ahead of his federal court appearance in Miami Tuesday.
There's no doubt in my mind that this is a political persecution.
Trump has called for his supporters to come to Miami. Mayor Francis Suarez says his city can handle protests related to Trump's arraignment.
Believe in the Constitution and believe that people should have the right to express themselves, but we also believe in law and order.
Multiple law enforcement officials tell CBS News online rhetoric calling for violence has increased in the wake of the indictment. Law enforcement agencies are combing through the posts looking for potential threats. So far, no credible, specific threat has been identified.
I can't speak for everyone, but I'm going to do everything I can humanly possibly do that's legal before a civil war, because that's what you guys are heading for.
Trump maintains he is innocent, and he is using the case to raise money in his bid to get back to the White House.
I mean, the only good thing about it is it's driven my poll numbers way up. Can you believe that?
The latest CBS News poll taken after the indictment shows Trump gaining ground on his competitors among likely GOP primary voters, and his challengers seem to be walking a fine line responding to the allegations.
This case is a serious case with serious allegations, but in America, you're still innocent until proven guilty.
Trump plans to fly back to New Jersey Tuesday for a fundraiser after he leaves court. Cristian Benavides, CBS News, Doral, Florida.
38% of likely Republican primary voters say Trump keeping classified or military documents does not pose a national security risk. That compares to 80% of the rest of voters in the survey. Former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi has died. He died at a hospital in Milan earlier today, where he was admitted on Friday. Berlusconi served as Italy's prime minister on 3 different occasions, from 1994 to 95, then again from 2001 to 2006, and again from 2008 to 2011. He was 86 years old. A spokesperson familiar with the situation says billionaire philanthropist George Soros has tapped his son to lead his charitable foundations and political action committee. 37-year-old Alexander Soros told the Wall Street Journal he is, quote, more political than his father, and expects to embrace different causes with the foundation, particularly voting rights and abortion rights. Forbes says 92-year-old George Soros is worth an estimated $6.7 billion. His foundations are worth far more than that. The foundation's website says George Soros has given $32 billion to his Open Society Foundation. The nation's largest bank, J.P. Morgan, has settled a class action lawsuit with Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse victims. That's from a joint release from both parties. The amount of the settlement was not disclosed, and the agreement is subject to court approval. The victims accused the bank of enabling sex trafficking when the financier was a client. Epstein was arrested in 2019 on charges of sex trafficking minors. He died in prison soon after his arrest in what authorities ruled a suicide. Victims of Epstein had previously reached a $75 million settlement with Deutsche Bank. Family, friends, and community leaders are honoring Tyree Nichols by naming a California skate park after him. A ribbon-cutting ceremony was held to mark the renaming of the Regency Community Skate Park as the Tyree Nichols Skate Park in Sacramento. Nichols died after being severely beaten by Memphis police officers during a traffic stop in January. He grew up in Sacramento, and the park is where he developed his love of skateboarding and built strong friendships. Community leaders say this is the best way to honor the kind of person Tyree was. Not only is the park getting a new name, organizations also came together to renovate it in his honor.
Sunshine slowly returns to many places in the mountains this evening after a rather overcast start to the day. Here's the view outside from London Corbin Airport. Plenty of these fair weather clouds, but no rain coming from them. Notice that temperature too. 72 should be about 10 degrees warmer this time of year for daytime highs. We're not even to 70 in Pikeville, though the sun is now out as the last of those clouds push on out of the region. Upper 60s here in Hazard. Same thing in Pikeville. We finally got to 70 in Prestonsburg. Middle and upper 60s across southwest Virginia, but others low to mid 70s trying to work back into the region. They'll be back over the next couple of days. You see satellite and radar. Well, this is just satellite, but you see just fair weather clouds as that front pushes onto the east. So I think we're finally done with the rain from this front, but I don't think we're completely done up through the next few days. Tonight, relatively quiet. Low 70s out there by 6 o'clock. Upper 60s if you're not already there by 8, and falling into the 50s, and eventually for some into the upper 40s as we head through tonight. Steve, I'll have the breakdown on when we could see perhaps a few more downpours try to work through the region in a few minutes.
Evan, thank you. The COVID-19 public health emergency ended just last month, and a new book looks at its effect here in Appalachia. Masks, Misinformation, and Making Do examines the pandemic through stories written by Appalachian healthcare workers. The book's editor, Dr. Wendy Welch, believes a lack of healthcare options and information made the pandemic worse for rural people.
People were dying because they were accepting misinformation, and people who knew what was going on couldn't do anything except, in some cases, hold their hands while they died. And that was killing them.
You can find a link to read the book on our website, WYMT.com. Our Keaton Hall will have more about this tonight at 11.